The last cargo ship from Earth has just landed on Mars. Not because Earth is gone, not because something went wrong, but because after decades of construction, this city has decided it doesn't need Earth anymore. Nearly 1 million people live here now. Children go to school. Hospitals perform surgery. Trains move beneath pressurized streets. Huge farms grow the city's food. Water comes from Martian ice. Oxygen is produced locally. Nuclear reactors and solar fields keep everything running. On paper, Mars has become humanity's first independent civilization. Then, 3 weeks after the final ship leaves, a water pump fails. Nobody panics. Engineers have replacements. They install one. The water begins flowing again. Problem solved. Except eventually that replacement will fail too. And the next one. And 20 years from now, there won't be another warehouse full of equipment manufactured on Earth. So Mars decides to make the pump itself. That sounds easy, until you ask what a pump actually requires. Precision bearings, processed metals, sensors, electronics, specialized seals, and machines capable of manufacturing all of them. Those machines need replacement parts too. Suddenly, one broken pump exposes something terrifying. Mars isn't independent. It has simply brought pieces of Earth with it and started a countdown until they wear out. Because a civilization isn't self-sufficient when it can grow food. It isn't self-sufficient when it can make oxygen. It isn't even self-sufficient when it can manufacture a few replacement parts. To truly survive without Earth, Mars eventually needs the ability to build. The machines that build the machines, keeping Mars alive. And even if it manages that, there's something inside this city that may be much harder to replace than any machine. For the people living here, Mars already feels independent. Breakfast wasn't shipped across space. It grew inside enormous pressurized farms. Water wasn't carried here in tanks. Machines extract ice buried beneath the Martian surface, purify it, and continuously recycle what the city uses. Even oxygen doesn't necessarily have to arrive from Earth. NASA's MOXIE experiment already demonstrated that oxygen can be produced from the carbon dioxide in Mars's atmosphere. Future settlements could combine technologies like this with water electrolysis and larger life support systems. Then there's electricity. Solar farms can provide part of it. But Mars receives less sunlight than Earth, and dust can severely reduce solar output. So a large permanent city would likely need dependable power sources capable of keeping hospitals, farms, and life support running when sunlight isn't enough. Food, water, air, power. Mars appears to have solved the 4 things separating civilization from death. And that's why the last cargo ship doesn't frighten most residents. The supermarkets stay open. The taps still work. The lights remain on. Nothing seems to have changed. But pick almost any machine in the city apart, and Earth is still hiding inside it. A greenhouse sensor, a pressure seal, a medical scanner, a mining robot, a water pump. Each contains materials and components produced through industrial systems that once stretched across an entire planet. And every one of those components has something in common. Eventually, it fails. Warehouses can postpone that problem. A city could stockpile years or decades of critical replacements. But stockpiles don't create independence. They create time. Eventually, Mars has to transform Martian rock, ice, and atmosphere into the things civilization actually uses. And the distance between those two things is enormous. Having iron isn't the same as having a surgical instrument. Having silicon isn't the same as having a processor. Having carbon isn't the same as having every polymer a city requires. Raw materials are only the beginning. Between the rock and the finished object is civilization. And nowhere is that hidden industrial network more important than inside the place where people go when their own bodies fail. Inside a Martian hospital, a child waits for antibiotics. A surgeon prepares for an operation. Blood samples move through diagnostic equipment. A patient receives a drug that keeps a chronic illness under control. Nothing here feels extraordinary. That's exactly why it's dangerous. A modern hospital doesn't run on doctors alone. Behind one treatment can sit sterile production lines, purified chemicals, biological cultures, refrigeration, laboratory equipment, packaging, and specialized manufacturing. On Earth, that network is mostly invisible. Mars cannot afford for it to remain invisible. Imagine a Martian teacher named Elena. She was born here. One morning, a routine medical test finds something wrong. Her treatment exists. The doctors know exactly what she needs. There are even doses remaining in storage. But now there is a question patients on Earth rarely need to ask. Who makes the next dose? Many medical products cannot simply be stockpiled for generations. Some degrade. Some require tightly controlled storage. Others are complex biological products. So future settlements may need to manufacture important therapeutics locally. One promising possibility is biological manufacturing. Engineered microbes or cells can function like microscopic factories, producing certain useful chemicals, foods, materials, and medicines. Instead of transporting every finished product from Earth, Mars could transport knowledge and biological capability. But there's a catch. The microbes need a bioreactor. The bioreactor needs pumps, filters, sensors, sterile components, control systems, and people who know how to operate them. We have returned to the same problem. Every solution depends on another layer of civilization. So Mars eventually has to make a difficult decision. It cannot preserve every product Earth offers. It must determine what is essential enough to reproduce locally. And medicine is only the beginning. Because across the city, billions of tiny decisions are being made by something much smaller than a pump, and dramatically harder to manufacture. A technician holds a processor between two fingers. It weighs almost nothing. Yet components like it help control mining robots, hospitals, water plants, vehicles, and factories. Mars has silicon, so why not simply make its own chips? Because finding silicon and manufacturing advanced electronics are two completely different achievements. Modern semiconductor production can require extraordinarily pure materials, precision equipment, controlled environments, specialized chemicals, vacuum systems, and microscopic manufacturing processes. But here's the more important question. Who makes the machines that make the chips? Suppose Mars builds its own electronics factory. It operates successfully for 20 years. Then one precision machine breaks. Now Mars needs another machine capable of manufacturing the damaged component. That machine needs tools of its own. Those tools eventually wear out. Follow that chain far enough, and Mars encounters the real definition of industrial independence. It doesn't merely need factories. It needs factories capable of maintaining factories, and eventually replacing the machines that make new factories possible. This is the idea of industrial closure. And it applies even to objects that seem simple. Take a bearing. It may look like two metal rings and a few rolling elements. But a reliable bearing requires the right material, precise manufacturing, heat treatment, surface finishing, lubrication, and measurement. That final word matters. Measurement. If Mars manufactures a component for a reactor pump, looking correct isn't enough. Engineers need to know whether its dimensions are correct, whether its material composition is correct, whether microscopic cracks exist, whether the instruments measuring those things are themselves accurate. Suddenly, Mars doesn't merely need manufacturing. It needs manufacturing capable of checking its own manufacturing. And that's when the city begins changing. Instead of 50 different pump designs, perhaps Mars uses 5. Instead of sealing products shut, engineers design them to be opened. Instead of throwing away an entire machine because one component failed, products become modular. An obsolete robot becomes a warehouse of motors, sensors, and metal. A damaged building becomes construction material. Because Mars learns something Earth can often afford to ignore. There is no way. Everything difficult to reproduce is a vulnerability. Everything discarded is something the city may have to manufacture again. And eventually Mars could build an industrial system capable of repairing almost anything it depends upon. But then one engineer retires. Another dies. And suddenly the city discovers a resource no mine can extract. Every morning, thousands of Martian children walk into school. They learn mathematics, chemistry, biology, engineering, history. It looks ordinary, but these classrooms are part of the city's life support system. Imagine the only specialists capable of diagnosing a rare failure in an atmospheric plant are approaching retirement. Mars can't recruit replacements from another country. There isn't another country. Every specialist the city needs 30 years from now must somehow exist within the population Mars is educating today. And downloading every textbook ever written doesn't solve this. A blueprint can describe a reactor. It doesn't create an experienced reactor engineer. A surgical manual doesn't create a surgeon. An AI could preserve enormous amounts of knowledge, guide diagnostics, and help train specialists. But civilization still needs humans capable of operating equipment, improvising when something unexpected happens, performing physical procedures, and passing practical expertise forward. That means Mars has to maintain something almost as important as oxygen: redundancy in knowledge. No critical system can depend permanently on one person's expertise. Engineers need apprentices. Doctors need younger doctors. Failures need to be recorded. Rare emergencies need to be simulated. Knowledge has to survive the people who discovered it. And this creates an uncomfortable consequence for ordinary Martians. A teenager may ask, "What do I want to become?" But the civilization may sometimes need to ask, "What do we need someone to become?" Suppose 17-year-old Noah wants to design virtual worlds, but several senior atmospheric control technicians will retire within a decade. If nobody replaces them, knowledge essential to maintaining breathable air becomes dangerously concentrated. Now career planning isn't merely personal. It becomes part of civilization's resilience. This is where Mars encounters a problem machines alone cannot solve. A small population cannot contain unlimited specialization. So Mars has to preserve knowledge while simultaneously reducing how much specialized knowledge its technology demands. And that leads to perhaps the biggest change of all. Maybe independence doesn't require Mars to become another Earth. Maybe it requires Mars to stop trying. Earth's economy works because no city manufactures everything it consumes. An ordinary smartphone may depend on minerals, factories, designs, chemicals, and components scattered across the planet. Mars cannot simply shrink Earth's entire industrial network and fit it beneath a dome. So eventually the question changes. Not, how do we reproduce everything Earth has? But, what do we actually need? Walk into a Martian apartment decades after independence. Products may be designed very differently. Furniture comes apart. Electronics can be opened. Household machines share standardized motors and components. Broken products are dismantled rather than discarded. Across the city, the same principle spreads. Vehicles share parts. Airlocks use standardized seals. Factories deliberately reduce unnecessary material varieties. Buildings are designed so useful materials can eventually be recovered. On Earth, consumers often value choice. Mars may value something else: compatibility. If 10 machines use one standardized component, Mars needs one manufacturing capability instead of 10. If products use materials that can easily be separated and recycled, fewer resources disappear into unusable waste. This doesn't make Mars technologically primitive. Some parts of the civilization could be extraordinarily sophisticated. Robots mine resources beyond the city. AI watches machines for tiny changes in vibration or temperature, predicting failures before they happen. Materials are tracked across decades. A piece of metal could begin inside a mining machine, become part of a water pump, then eventually return to a furnace and emerge inside something else. Mars develops a technological culture around a rule. Nothing essential should become impossible to replace. But recycling isn't perfect. Materials are lost. Others become contaminated. New infrastructure still requires new resources. So an independent civilization needs more than recycling. It needs mines, refineries, chemical plants, metal production, glass, ceramics, industrial gases, manufacturing, education, energy, agriculture, healthcare. Look at the settlement from orbit now. It no longer resembles a base. Resources enter, products circulate, waste becomes feedstock, knowledge passes between generations. Machines help produce new machines. Infrastructure maintains infrastructure. Mars has developed something resembling a metabolism. It is no longer simply surviving on another planet. It is becoming a civilization. But there's one final test. Because independence isn't proven during the year everything works. It's proven during the year something goes badly wrong. Decades after the last scheduled supply ship, a major Martian power system fails. Nothing explodes. The city doesn't instantly go dark. Redundant systems take over. Hospitals stay powered. Life support keeps running. But non-essential factories shut down. Public systems reduce energy use. Mars is now living on backup capacity. Engineers discover that repairing the failed system requires a component the city hasn't manufactured in years. This is the moment independence is actually tested, not when the final ship departed. Now, technicians search inventories. An obsolete machine contains one compatible component. Another part can be remanufactured. A third requires an alloy that isn't currently being produced. So the metallurgy plant changes production. The machine shop receives the material. Old manufacturing records are retrieved. AI compares the original design with equipment available today. Engineers modify it. A replacement is produced, tested, rejected, made again, tested again, installed, and eventually, the system restarts. For an ordinary family eating dinner inside their apartment, the result is almost anticlimactic. The lights simply return to full brightness. But that quiet moment means more than the arrival of the first spacecraft. Something critical broke on another world, and nobody needed Earth to fix it. That's the threshold. A settlement survives because supplies arrive. A colony survives because it produces some of what it consumes. But an independent civilization must be able to repair, reproduce, and adapt the systems making its existence possible. And perhaps complete independence doesn't really exist. No city on Earth manufactures everything either. Civilization has always been a network. Mars doesn't need to reproduce every object humanity has ever invented. It needs enough industrial depth, knowledge, redundancy, and adaptability that losing Earth is no longer an existential emergency. Years later, one unopened container from Earth's final shipment sits inside a Martian museum. Children gather around it. None remembers imported medicine. None remembers waiting for replacement parts. To them, Earth isn't the planet keeping their city alive. It's simply the world their civilization came from. Outside, machines built on Mars repair machines built on Mars. Doctors use medicines produced locally. Engineers work with materials extracted from Martian soil. And children are learning how to maintain systems their grandparents designed. Humanity hasn't simply learned how to live on another planet. It has learned how to keep civilization alive there. And perhaps that is the real moment humanity becomes a multi-planet species. Not when the first human leaves a footprint in Martian dust. Not when the first city rises. Not even when the first child is born there. But when something breaks on another world. And Earth is no longer needed to fix it.